to another episode of Create Space, a podcast that finds joy in the art of storytelling. If I could sum up today's episode for you, I would say, take the risk. Try the thing that scares you. Give it a shot, even if you don't think you can do it. That's the lesson that I learned from current Wichita State communication student Jacob Workentine. Jacob is a talented and skillful videographer and motion graphics editor, and he's currently in his senior year with us here in the Elliott School. I asked him to join me today on Create Space to tell you the story of how he entered a NASA Space Apps Hackathon competition on a whim, basically. Now, this competition is designed for science, technology, and engineering professionals. All of the other entrants had teams of 5 or 6 people, and Jacob came in by himself as the only person there from a creative industry, and he decided to just try it and see what happens. I mean, Jacob is as fearless as they come. He put himself in this space where he wasn't for sure if he belonged. And what ended up happening is he won first place. Jacob got to travel to Boston to present his project to a group of C-suite executives, and since then has been offered a job by the same company after he graduates. So Jacob's challenge in the competition and the project that won him first place was called On the Way to the Sun, and he was tasked with creating a project geared towards children based on the true story of the Parker Solar Probe's record-breaking mission from Earth and through the sun's upper atmosphere for the purpose of sampling particles and magnetic fields. Now, I have included a link to Jacob's video in the show notes page, so please take a moment to go watch it and then come back and join us as we meet Jacob and learn about Parker the Solar Probe and his journey to the sun. I am so excited to be featuring Jacob Workentine on the podcast today. Jacob, you are easily one of the most creative, talented, innovative storytellers that I've ever met. Thank you for agreeing to come and do the show with me.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I want to spend most of the time today talking about your award-winning children's book project. However, I feel like we need to kind of build some context first, just to let the audience kind of know who you are. So could you give us sort of maybe a highlight reel version of your career and education as a creative storyteller thus far?
Oh, man. Okay. Well, it all started in high school. One of my teachers for geography, she gave us an option. We could either write a paper or we could make a video. And I was like, I hate writing papers, so I'm going to try making a video. So I made a rap battle between America and Canada.
Nice.
It's one of the worst videos I've created, but everyone in my class loved it, and I was like, well, there's something here. So I did some more small videos in high school, and then when I was looking for college and trying to decide what I wanted to do with my future, I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to go into the arts because I wanted money. So I was like, well, what's a good combination of these two? So I came to WSU and I saw that there was a media communications, electronic communications degree where I could combine these two kind of ideas of like analytical thinking and creative tendencies. And I was like, well, that seems like a perfect way to go. So I took intro to multimedia and I made a bunch of videos with that and was like, I'm good at this. This feels good. Like I don't hate myself for having to work at this a lot, and it's something that's rewarding. So I was like, this seems like the way to go. So I've been doing that ever since and just keep trying new different things like audio, video. I've gotten into graphic design recently, so I'm moving on to that. And this semester, special effects is what my big focus will be.
Awesome. Yeah. It's like motion graphics and special effects, like post special effects?
It'll be
in camera.
It'll be post special effects.
Okay.
So I recreated the Ant-Man transformation effect recently, and so I'm just going to build off of that right now. That's been my new thing.
I love that. You always have a new thing. Like I don't think I've ever seen you not working on something new or trying to grow something.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
So where does that come from? Where does your creativity come from, do you think? Is it just a part of who you are?
I think I get very bored, and I'm very visual too. So I grew up watching movies. I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings to bother me. So I was just watching movies and reading and just comic books a lot too. So from that, I was like, I have this good base knowledge of like, here's what's possible. And now that I have this education, I'm like, oh, I actually know how to do that. So I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, I think I know how they did that. And then I'll try to recreate it just because I might as well see if I can. And then it's something cool to add to the resume. And
I love that. And I think if you could have like a life motto, let's just see if I can do that, that so works for you.
Yeah, yep. I think it's
so fun.
Something good to have. Keeps life interesting.
So let's get to the amazing story of Parker the Solar Probe. That's the reason. I mean, there's so much, honestly, about your creative journey that I could talk about, but I want to get into Parker the Solar Probe.
Yeah,
so
Parker.
Just walk us through, how you heard about the competition, what happened, and just break down the basics of the story for us first.
Okay. I was walking through our student union. Is the RSC the student union
Yes.
technically? Okay. I was walking through student union. I love walking through there because there's a bunch of weird stuff that happens all the time. And there's this little table.
Active, yeah.
There's something going on. And I like being where people are too. There's this little barren table with some NASA stickers and a little banner. 2 people there. It was the hackathon. It was the NASA Space Apps Hackathon. But hackathon was in big letters, so I was like, it doesn't seem like it's for me. But I saw the sticker. I was like, well, I'll just talk with them, get the sticker, and then leave. Like, I don't have to do anything. And I talked with them, and just out of curiosity, I was like, do you have anything that's not related to like computer science or aerospace? And they were like, oh yeah, sure, we have a couple challenges you can do. I was like, all right, I can check them out. So grabbed my sticker. Which is what I was there for. I learned that this event would be held. It had free food, which was another eye-opening thing. I was like, ooh, maybe I'm interested in this.
Right.
Free food sticker. It's a 36-hour hackathon, basically, but it's not just a hackathon. Like they have a lot of different challenges that people can try to accomplish in these 36 hours. And it's an international challenge that NASA sets up for everyone to compete in. So you have all these different countries competing in whatever challenge they think they can do. So schools compete. There's no age limit. You have people all the way from kindergarten to in their 70s competing all around the globe. But they have different they have different individual places that it can be held. So Wichita State was holding one, and it was just a group. You could come in, do your project, you can present it to, and that's all I knew. I was like, all right, that sounds cool. So the day rolled around, I signed up for it, and I was like, oh yeah, I should probably go do that. And you could get a team. I did not know that you should have gotten a team, like everyone else got in a team. I don't know many friends who would want to be stuck in a place for 36 hours just working on one thing in the middle of school with work and whatever. So I was like, I'm not going to bother them. So I went to it. Everyone else had a team. I was alone. And I was like, oh man, maybe I should find somebody. But everybody grouped up. I was kind of the last kid at the table. I was like, well, I'm already here. Might as well do it. There's free food, so I'll stick around. So after the initial meeting, they sent us back home. I told everyone, I was like, I'm going to be ghost for like 36 hours. So don't talk with me. I don't hate you, but yeah.
This is going to be an intense 36 hours.
Just it, yeah. And I came up with the idea. I found the challenge. I scrolled around. So a majority of them are science-based. However, they have 6 little challenges in arts and culture. And one of them was tell a story geared towards younger audiences about the Parker Solar Probe and how it essentially touched the sun. And it must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that was essentially it. So they gave resources like facts about the Parker Solar Probe, their NASA data you can use. And they were like, yep, you could do whatever, just tell a story. So I heard story and geared towards younger audiences. And I was like, well, this is a children's story. I know how to do this.
I could probably do that.
Yeah.
Your life motto came into play.
I've actually been working on children's stories or like doing illustrations for my mom because in college I don't have money really. And finding a new gift for parents is very hard, especially the older you get because you see them less. And so you're like, what should I do? And she wrote a lot of poetry and they're all kind of like, since children's books are poetry, I was like, oh, this is just a children's story. So I drew out some of the stanzas, and I've been doing that for the past few years as just my Christmas gift. So I draw a stanza each time, and eventually we're just going to collect it into a children's book. So I've already technically been working on it and prepping it, and I was like, well, I might as well just make a full one now, basically, for Parker. because it's kind of geared towards children too, where it's like it's very accomplishing. We touch the sun. This is like the peak of NASA. Like,
right.
This is totally for children, I think. So I spent 36 hours. Everyone else, they were all working on really smart stuff. Like they were like mapping moonquakes in a 3D model, or creating a data set that would help construction companies figure out what's the best place, like what's the most safe place to work for national or like weather hazards. Like what's that look like? And I can't even begin to describe it because it's just so out of my realm. Like, okay,
right.
This is what, and every now and then the judges would come over and be like, all right, so what are you working on? I was like, well, I'm just drawing a children's book. Do you want to see? Here's my little drawings.
Parker's about to touch the sun.
Yeah,
Come on
look
over.
at this. I drew a moth. Like, I'm like, okay. So everyone would kind of just come check on me, see how because they were all curious. They were like, what is this loner doing? I was like, yeah, just making this children's book. They're like, all right, we'll see what happens. So they all worked in that. I lost a lot of sleep. I got 30 minutes of sleep, I think, and there just comes a point where it's just useless, so you just keep trucking on. They gave us energy drinks and food and whatnot, so it was all good. And I didn't realize this, but they also had companies there too, like local companies they were essentially using this as a scouting position. So they were piggybacking off of the NASA challenges, like, okay, this could be a hiring event.
Smart.
Yeah, it's very smart. And now some of those companies are thinking of just doing their own too. So it seems like it's going to be a very popular trend of like having these challenges set up, because it's a great hiring event too. Like you get to show off your stuff and meet new people, network. It's awesome. So the awards time comes, and they have third place is like a fancy cooler that's Bluetooth. I don't know what a Bluetooth cooler looks like, but yeah.
But it's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Second place was some AirPods, and first place was a trip to Boston to see one of the scouting companies. You get a tour of their facility, and you get to talk with them, and then the possibility of an internship with them too. It was like you get to present your project that you created to these head titles and positions at this company. And I was like
the C-suite or something.
Yeah, like you get the big people, the head honchos there.
Yeah.
And I was talking with some of the other groups. I became good friends with some of them, and I was like, oh, you know what? It'd be pretty funny if I got to read a children's book to some big, large, important people. They're like, that would be pretty funny. So I ended up presenting. Everyone else did their job. I went up all alone. My team name was just Jacob. I thought that got my point across. And I presented it. And then they did their judging they were like, okay, now go eat while we judge. And so it's like your stomach's in knots because you've been working 36 hours. And it's like, I don't know if I want to eat right now. So
you're tired and nervous.
Tired, nervous. Everyone else is doing their own thing, and you get to see what everyone else is doing. You're like, oh my God, that's crazy. And so they came back and they announced third place. There was only 5 groups too, which I was lucky about because a smaller pool to get from, so there's a higher chance of like being positioned in 3. They announced third place, they announced second place, and I was the only team left, and I was like, oh my God. So they announced me, and I walked up and had this confetti going off, and I was like, wow, I'm actually going to present a children's book to these head honchos.
That's so cool.
And because it was actually worked out great because they didn't expect one person to win, so they also brought second place along with the trip too.
And I think I remember you saying that the people who got second place, they were like the team that you kind of connected with the most, so it kind of worked out that you all got to go together.
They were the lunch table next to me, essentially.
That's so. I've heard this story like several times at this point, and I don't think I ever heard that there was confetti.
Yeah.
Somehow that makes it so much more fun to me.
It was very dream state. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I was sleep deprived too, so I was just like vibing completely up there. I was like, wow.
Man, I just remember you either emailing me or texting me. I can't remember how you reached out, but somehow or the other, it was like, hey, can I come by? I have some news that I think the Elliott School might be interested in. And I just remember thinking, what in the world? What is going on? Oh my gosh. And I think I said to you, like, the anticipation, are you kidding me right now? But man, I remember all of us were floored and so excited.
Yeah, it was great. It felt very important because everyone else was engineering or computer science, because that's how it was marketed. So I was the only one there that was doing something a little bit different. So I kind of felt like the odd sheep out with it. So I was like, oh, cool. We beat these engineers.
There you go. And, you beat them. And also what I find fascinating is that you also befriended them, because I can see in another world, if you were a different type of person, that they might have thought, who is this guy coming into our competition? But because of you and your vibe and your energy and the way that you approach things, it seems like no one took you that way. Like everyone thought, oh, look at this, just Jacob. Let's,
I was just grateful to be there. Have some free meals for a weekend.
Yeah. So I have more questions about like kind of the whole experience, but since you have already gone to Boston just very recently, let's move on to that part and talk about the second phase. What all happened there?
It was very cool. So the other team went with me too, and I was kind of talking with them beforehand. They scheduled it out. They were kind of seeing what our projects were so they could gear anything else they had towards us so it became more oriented that way. So there's a lot of prep that went into it. And I was like, okay, there's probably a job opportunity out of this. And I talked with the other team. I was like, are you ready for the interview portion? They were like, I think they're kind of just showing off their facilities. And I was like, oh, all right, I still get a free trip to Boston. So I went there. Everyone was very fancy. We were all dressed up in more free food this time. It was like awesome. They showed us Boston. They spared no expense, like all these. I've never been in like this situation where it's like, yes, you have these corporate meals and, all that fancy stuff. And it's like, ooh, here we are.
You're wined and dined.
Yeah, I was like very fancy. Yeah, they're just fattening me up for this. I'm like, cool. And they showed off their stuff. It's I don't know what I can reveal about. I don't know.
You got to be careful about not revealing too much. That's understandable.
We had to sign some NDAs and whatever. It was it's a technology company, so they focus on software a lot, and they work with like 30,000 companies, I think. So they said with us that we use, from the time we woke up in our hotel to coming to the building, we've used 10 of their products that they've worked with. And I was like, what a quick flex with that,
Yeah.
And it definitely showed off with what they were showing off. They have like 3D printing and just AR stuff, a lot of modeling too. So they showed us all of that, and they were like, okay, well, the CEOs are coming, so get your project ready. I decided to go first. I was like, whatever, I don't care. I was talking with some of the videographers too. They had their own little videographer crew there. It was just one person, but I was talking with her because I was like, I get it. Everyone else is like, it's very scientific and, all this lingo that I'm not certain about. I could still appreciate it. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is Tony Stark level. But
but you found your people.
I found my people. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, what's your history? And so she talked to me about that. And so I was like building a little bit of a connection there too. And then we had the manager of marketing for the North America section of this company. She was the person who I was targeting basically for my presentation. So I went up, I presented, and at this point I knew some of the other people, some of the other teams that work in this company. And I was like, does anybody have any questions here? Everyone was laughing too, like they appreciated. Oh, I should say I created a reading rainbow video for this because I can't print off a book in 36 hours. So that was basically what I was presenting, was just this video. And one of the teams, I was like, does anybody have any questions about this process or whatever? And one of them was like, you're studying UX design this semester, right? And I was like, I sure am. And she's like, okay. So she wrote a little note down. I was like, I think that's a good sign. And then the manager was of marketing for the North America section. She was like, I don't think a lot of people in this room appreciate like what goes on with this production value, because to us, it's just a short little video. But I know the behind the scenes, like everything that she had to do to get to this point too. So I really appreciate this. And she created a position for me. She was like, you have any plans after graduation? I was like, nope, not really. She was like, all right. I'm going to make a position for you, 5 hours, and then we'll get it running, and your people can contact my people. I was like, cool, sounds good.
That's amazing.
So they created a position for me, and the other team was like, well, I guess you were right. You were getting a job out of this. I was like, I guess so. And then I met some more people who are more oriented towards my thing. They have English majors working there. They have somebody who is very familiar with my background too, or similar to my background. He's also working there, so I've been talking with them. So that was the end goal. So now I know what I'm doing after college.
Which is, every college kid's dream, right?
Yeah,
to have a plan afterward. And it's incredible. I love listening to you tell this story because you tell it with such a almost like mundane quality, like it's an everyday thing. And it's just so crazy. And I think what I find most interesting about the whole thing from start to finish is how completely fearlessly you approached the opportunity.
Yeah.
how does that happen? And now you just waltzed into a thing that you didn't know much about, put yourself out there, said I could maybe do that, went to Boston, got a job. How do you do that? How do you take risks like that?
I think it comes from, and I've recently learned about this from TikTok too.
TikTok teaches me so much.
Self-diagnose, yeah, you just find all sorts of stuff about you there.
Right.
I've learned, and this kind of goes in hand with my acting background too, where some people with social anxiety will get to a point where you can put yourself into a scenario and you kind of have an out of body experience with it. So with acting, it's very similar because you memorize the script and you're like, okay, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. So you kind of just go through the motions.
And you're being someone else.
You're being someone else essentially. So with that and other opportunities in my life, I kind of, it comes to a point where you're like, well, why not just do that? Because a lot of good things have come from just putting yourself in weird scenarios and, you've got nothing to lose. Like, I don't know these people. Something that's helped me is that usually if I'll enter a new scenario, like this, for instance, like a hackathon, I will never see these people again probably.
Right.
Because they're in a whole different college. Like, I'll never see them again, and now I work with them. But beforehand, I was like, yeah, I have nothing to lose. I might as well just do this. And especially after COVID too, where it's like I have to take hold of like every opportunity I get because I'm very lucky and I'm paying for this college experience and this is a part of it. So I might as well do it even if I feel awkward because something good will probably come. And if not, I can just go home and better experience from that.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing to lose. Yeah.
It's a fantastic mentality, honestly. It really is. The other part for me as an educator, and we've discussed this somewhat, and I know the dean of our college was also very interested in this part of the story, is that the whole experience really really highlights the benefits and the strengths of an interdisciplinary approach to education, and that sometimes we get stuck in, well, these are my skills and talents, so I'm going to spend time with other people with my skills and talents, when in reality, sometimes combining those people can create something really amazing.
Yeah.
So what was it like working within, I mean, I know you worked on your own, but you were a part of this bigger thing that was completely out of your industry. What was that like?
It was very daunting. It made me appreciate like how teams are built too. So one of the teams, the second place winning team, I learned this on the trip. They were set up from the beginning to just be like the Avengers of, skills and talent. So the people I connected with, they kind of had a media background. Like they also do special effects stuff. One of them built an Iron Man suit just with 3D printed stuff and like it could actually shoot off things. And I was like, oh my goodness. So hearing about their backgrounds, I was like, oh, wow, this is like, it's cool to see a collaboration just come to fruition, especially how each person, even if it may not be oriented towards the project they're working on, but just how their team dynamics work with communication. Like you can tell which leaders come out of it. Like the leaders typically, or sometimes in a group, like they may not even know what they're doing, but they know that their team knows what they're doing. So they rely on the people who they know can actually get it done,
right.
Which is one of my favorite parts of seeing, like having a leader an unsuspected leader, like someone you would never expect to lead the team who may not know anything, but they know who knows the right things to do. So it's very cool to see that. And it comes out in the final project too. So with their group, they had a full 3D modeled video from it because they had one person there. They had one person working on data. They had one person who was kind of marketed oriented. And with their presentation, you could see like, oh, wow, this is like, it all comes together with this too. Like you can see who could explain what best. And when they were asked questions, like they knew who to call on. So it just prepares you more for difficulties that could come about with it.
Yeah. There was I can't remember which like personality quiz or something or other that I took, one of those Myers-Briggs or strengths or something. But one of the options on this particular one was a maximizer. And I remember my friend Kyle got that as his, and we were kind of talking about it. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. As someone who sees the ability in others and knows how to maximize that in a team environment, that's such a skill. And it's exactly what you were just talking about.
Yep.
And it's hard to find people who are really, really good at that.
And it's hard to like give them opportunities too, because sometimes they compare themselves to other people and they realize, oh, I don't have these skills. But meanwhile, their skill is utilizing the people who have the skills. And so giving them that platform to actually experience that is so important.
Yeah. And that brings me kind of to the next point of, when we talk about you walking into this place, we almost talk about it from a sense of, oh, all these people making apps, oh, all these people doing this, and I'm just over here making a little kid's story. Yeah. We're almost downplaying it in a sense, which I don't mean to do. But I think that societally, that's what we all do. We sort of see certain jobs as harder or people as smarter or whatever. But truth be told, I think your creativity and your liberal arts and sciences education is what helped you win this, right? So what, in your eyes, what set you out over the top? Like, what made you stand out?
I talked with the judges about this, and this comes with this benefited my communications degree because of all my public speaking experience. I put a lot of time into my presentation. Other teams did not. The judges, there was a question portion, a Q&A portion. So I was prepared for anything. I was like, I have my reasons behind why I made the decisions of, putting a moth character instead of a human. Just having all these, being prepared for anything, which comes from social anxiety too. It helps out. They saw me practicing around an hour before we had to present. I was just talking to myself in the corner, which looked creepy.
It's like a forensics thing.
Yeah, it felt like forensics.
Yeah.
And a lot of these groups, they've never had that experience of like having to pitch their idea and what looks good in a pitch and what really shows out in a company. So when I presented it, I had some humor in it. There was no awkward pauses. I tried to limit my ums, which I'm not doing now.
It's all right.
I had questions ready for them too. I knew what points they would probably bring up, and I talked with them, and they were like, "Yeah, that's really what made you stood out." Because with the CS majors, they haven't been in this situation before, where they have to show off or have to know what their audience wants out of their project. So I knew what they were looking for. I knew how I should explain the whys behind of what I did. It really helped out, set me apart from the rest of the groups.
Yeah, sharing your vision. Like it's one thing to make something and make your vision happen. It's another thing to be able to take that and transmit it to someone else and share it to someone else in a way that they understand it, in a way that's effective to them and entertaining to them or informative or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Yeah. It's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different skill set. And that this is such a great testament to those skills that we try to tell everyone are so important, but aren't always given the value that they deserve.
Yep. Yeah.
So we talked earlier about how you're always doing something new. You're always coming up with stuff. And I know that visual effects is something that you're kind of wanting to look into. Let's say over the next few years, are there any specific types of projects or new things or new directions that you would like to go? That's a big question.
Yeah. Okay. So for my next project, I think it'd be cool to do a documentary. I wanted to make one. If I didn't get a job, I would try making one about AI art. I think that world moved too fast, though. I love video essays. I've been deep diving into them with YouTube because they're honestly film level quality, and it's just these single people that are like, yeah, well, just it takes months to put out, but the quality is just so good. And I was like, I think that would be super cool. I've never worked on something really long form, so just finding time to do that and having that experience I think it would be awesome to do, and then I could maybe meet some more people from that, enter some competitions, have a new network come from it. I think that would be fun.
That's wonderful. And just take any opportunities that come your way, huh?
Yeah, yep.
See if you can try it.
I'm doing a bunch of freelance stuff right now. I think doing more photography stuff. I've been getting into concert photography lately.
Oh, cool.
It's been very fun. I've worked with some a big name. Not some big names, yeah.
Can you tell us who it was? Or is it?
It was Sammy Ray and the Friends. They're
nice.
Awesome.
That's so cool.
They're very cool. Their manager's great too. Like they're just awesome crowd to be with.
Wow. So, okay, we know what's kind of coming next for you.
Yeah.
What's coming next for, or is anything coming next for Parker the Solar Probe? Does your video, does your project get to grow anymore from here? Or do you see it growing, or is it is this what it is?
I don't think it'll grow anymore, but I will try to use it because the company that I was, they're setting up the internship for me. They want to set up their own competition, so I'll probably use this as like inspiration for it or testimonial. I definitely want to help out with the Space Apps community more. I made it to global finalists, so like I'm sure wherever I go, I can find some local place that I could be like, oh, I would love to be a part of this and like advertise this to whoever's, setting up that little table. Like I would love to be the guy at the little table handing out stickers, like seeing what new talent you could find with it and just showing it off.
That would be a full circle experience that you picked up a sticker from a table and now you're the guy at the table.
I'll give them out. Yeah, I would love to do that somehow.
Do you think in your lifetime that you would write the Parker the Solar Probe children's book, like actually publish the book?
That was my plan to bring it to the trip to Boston. I was planning on publishing it. I just did not have time.
That's fair.
So I probably won't. I don't think it's expensive.
Oh, that's a good point.
If I get money, then sure. I got nothing else to do. Probably that'd be cool to just say, yeah, I published a children's book, whatever. Find
someone to publish it for you. I mean, there's probably ways to figure that out.
Yeah. Yep. So
because when I saw the video, I thought to myself, I would buy this book.
Yeah.
Like, I would absolutely read this to my children, and I think a lot of people would. So that would be a really neat experience for everyone to get to experience that in a book, I think.
It would be cool. I'll have to see if NASA's down for it too.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like they've been happy to give you every opportunity you could do anything with, so maybe they'd help you publish a book too. Who knows?
Have a little slice of the moolah too from all the cash flows that will be raked in from Parker.
Yes.
Probably not, but yeah.
You never know, right? You can manifest that or something.
Yeah.
So, last final question.
Yeah.
As someone who did it, do you have any advice for someone else listening who's afraid to jump into something new, afraid to take that risk or that opportunity?
I think if you have nothing to lose, you might as well. There's this, since I'm very visual, somebody laid out in one of my health classes, they're like, okay, here's this line of string on a large table we have, and here's a kidney bean. A kidney bean is 1 year. So how old are you all? You're like, what, 18? And so they filled up 18 kidney beans along this line. They're like, all right, look at how much life you have left. Everyone's worried about like, oh my God, this is the life-altering decision I'll make that will ruin everything. But, you have this much time left. You might as well do something new or learn something because you never know what ways it'll come back in that much time you have left in life to help you out. And even if you are older, if you're like 80 kidney beans in, might as well, because you can inspire a new generation to keep learning something or keep trying new things, because this world is, I always like to say this, the world is an oyster. There's so much to do with it too. Even if you live in Kansas, you can still find some stuff to do.
Right.
Stuff to learn. And if you're a Jeopardy contestant too, like everything you learn will help out with it.
It'll always, if you can't use it anywhere else, you can use it if you're a Jeopardy contestant.
Jeopardy. That's always my excuse for learning something. It's like, it could help out with Jeopardy when I get on it.
That's the best excuse ever. Well, I love that, and thank you for being on. I was excited to interview you because I've told you this so many times, but from the moment I met you, it was just like, something's different here. Like this guy just does things that other people would not do or don't do for whatever reason. And it's inspiring to watch you just take opportunities and run with them. And I think oftentimes you don't realize how good you are. So I like to take every opportunity I can to tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
and share that with other people. So thanks again. I appreciate it. And please keep me posted. I'm just not thinking about the fact that when you graduate, you won't be here at the Elliott School anymore. I'm in denial, but please keep us all posted on your growth and Parker the Solar Probe's growth if anything happens for him.
Yeah.
And thank you again.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening today. This is a story that I have wanted to share for so long. I am beyond proud of Jacob, and I've learned so much from him during his time in the Elliott School. And again, I have included a link to Jacob's video in the show notes page, and it is absolutely something that you don't want to miss. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Create Space.